I found my wife's secret bank account with $300, $0 marked as inheritance she never told me about. Then I discovered she's planning to sign over our family home to her sneaky brother. Was I just betrayed or set up for bankruptcy? I never thought I'd be the guy sitting here telling a story about my wife cheating on me, but life has a way of throwing curveballs when you least expect it. The thing is, I caught her, literally caught her, cheating on me in the worst way possible. It all started with little things, signs I ignored or brushed off because I didn't want to believe the worst. But then I found out about the money, the lies, and her sneaky plans. Honestly, I'm still trying to process it all. Her name. We've been married for about 8 years now. She's always been the kind of woman who's a little bitchy, very opinionated, and never shy about telling you what she thinks. She's gorgeous, tall, with those piercing blue eyes that could melt most men. But behind that, I always sensed she was hiding something. She was good at hiding it, at least I thought she was. Our relationship started to change about a year ago. She became more distant, more secretive. She'd go out with her friends and come back late, always with some excuse about work or girls' night. She started dressing differently, more provocative, and the way she talked about her sex life with me became more flirty, more teasing, but also more manipulative. I remember one night, I caught her texting someone at 2 a.m., just a quick glance, but enough to see a guy's name and a few suggestive messages. I asked her about it, she lied, said it was just a nothing serious. I wanted to believe her, but something felt off. Then came the signs that something was really wrong. She started hiding her phone more often, locking it, deleting messages. She'd get defensive when I asked about her whereabouts, and her attitude, she'd snap at me over nothing, accuse me of being paranoid or insecure. Still, I tried to brush it off, telling myself I was overthinking. We had good times too, moments that made me think maybe I was just imagining things. But deep down, I knew something wasn't right. It wasn't until I accidentally stumbled upon her bank statements that things started to unravel completely. I was checking our joint account, just routine stuff, when I noticed a transfer of $300, $0 marked as inheritance that I never knew about. I asked her about it and she brushed it off, said it was some distant relative's money that she inherited after some family member passed away. She made it sound like no big deal, just a small inheritance she wanted to keep private. But something about the way she said it, the way she avoided eye contact, made my stomach tighten. That wasn't the only thing. I found out she'd been planning to sign over our family home to her brother, Tom, the sneaky one. I saw the papers in her drawer, ready to be signed, and I realized she'd been planning this behind my back for months. She told me it was for better investment, that she wanted to help her brother get back on his feet after some financial trouble. But I knew better. I knew this was her way of screwing me over, of setting me up for bankruptcy while she walked away with a fortune and her brother's debts cleared. That was the moment I realized I'd been betrayed on a level I couldn't even comprehend. The woman I loved, the woman I trusted with everything, was secretly planning her escape, and I was just a pawn in her game. I felt sick, angry, betrayed, and utterly clueless about how I'd let her get away with this for so long. The worst part, she kept lying, kept spinning stories about how she loved me, how she was just trying to do what's best for her family. But her actions told a different story. I didn't sleep that night. I stayed up going over everything I'd learned. The money, the house, her lies. I kept asking myself, was she just cheating on me, or was she trying to wipe me out financially? Was this a betrayal of love or a calculated move to leave me broken? I didn't have the answers, but I knew I had to confront her. The next day, I planned to get to the bottom of it. Little did I know, things were about to get even worse. The morning after I found all this out, I felt like I was walking around in a fog. My mind kept jumping from one thought to another, her lies, the money, her plans to hand over our house, and I couldn't breathe right. I knew I had to confront her, but I also knew this wasn't going to be easy. Is the kind of woman who's used to getting her way, who can spin stories and make you doubt your own eyes. Still, I couldn't stay quiet anymore. I waited until she got back from her work meeting, which I knew was just an excuse. She's always working late, but I knew better now. When she finally stepped inside, I was already sitting on the couch, my arms crossed, waiting for her to come clean. She looked surprised, maybe even a little guilty, but she quickly put on her bitchy face, like she was ready to throw punches if I said the wrong thing. "So, what's going on?" she asked, trying to sound casual, but her voice was a little too high, a little too defensive. I didn't waste time. I laid out everything I'd found: the bank account, the inheritance, the house papers, her lies about her family help. Her eyes widened, and for a second I thought she might start crying or deny everything, but instead she scoffed and crossed her arms. "Oh, come on, you're making a big deal out of nothing," she said, rolling her eyes. "It's just money. I inherited it, that's all. It's not like I was hiding it to cheat on you or steal from you." I felt my blood boil. "You call that nothing? $300, $0 marked as inheritance. And you're planning to give away our house to your brother. You think I don't see what you're trying to do? You've been lying to me for months. I trusted you. I thought we were in this together." She looked at me with that same bitchy smirk, trying to brush it off. "Look, I don't know what you're talking about. You're overreacting. Maybe you're just jealous or paranoid because I've been busy with work. Or maybe you found out I'm not as perfect as you thought." That was the moment I realized she was lying again, trying to turn it around on me. She's always been good at that, twisting things, making me doubt my own instincts. But I wasn't going to let her get away with it anymore. I told her I wanted the truth, that I wasn't leaving until she told me everything. And then she snapped. "You're just insecure," she spat. "You don't trust me. Maybe I should just leave then. If you're so damn suspicious, maybe I don't want to stay with someone who doesn't believe in me." That's when I saw the real her, bitchy, manipulative, and completely selfish. I'd had enough. I told her she could pack her bags and leave if she wanted, but I wasn't going to let her take my house or my money without a fight. I demanded she hand over the papers for the house, and I told her I was calling a lawyer. She laughed, said I was overreacting, and stormed out of the house in a huff. That day was a whirlwind. I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. I felt betrayed on every level. She lied about everything: her feelings, her intentions, her inheritance. And she'd been planning her escape behind my back. It was like finding out the woman I loved was a complete stranger, someone who'd been plotting my downfall all along. The emotional fallout was intense. I went from disbelief to anger, then to sadness I didn't even know I was capable of feeling. I kept wondering how I missed all the signs, how I let her get away with this for so long. I kept replaying the moments when she was sweet, when she told me she loved me, and I felt like an idiot for trusting her. But I also knew I couldn't just sit around feeling sorry for myself. I had to do something. I had to protect what was mine: my house, my money, my life. So I started making plans. I reached out to a lawyer, gathered evidence, and prepared for what was coming next. I wasn't going to let her walk away with everything, not without a fight. I decided I'd get to the bottom of her plans, expose her lies, and make sure she paid for what she'd done. I didn't know exactly how things would turn out, but I knew I couldn't just let her screw me over and walk away free. Not after everything. The days that followed were pure chaos. I was on edge constantly, trying to piece together what was really up to. I started digging deeper into her phone, her emails, anything I could find that might give me more insight. I wasn't just angry. I was hurt, betrayed, and feeling more foolish by the minute. How had I missed all the signs? How could someone I loved so much turn out to be so calculating? One night, I stayed up late going through her messages. I'd always suspected she was hiding something, and now I had proof. There were texts and emails from her brother Tom, sneaky little conversations about how to transfer the house papers, how to make sure I didn't find out until it was too late. I saw plans to get everything in her name and protect her inheritance. It was clear she was in this for herself, not us. She'd been planning to cut me out entirely. I felt a cold wave of rage wash over me. I thought about all the years we spent together, the plans we made, the future I pictured, gone in an instant because of her greed. I kept asking myself, was she just pretending all along? Was this marriage just a game to her? I couldn't believe I'd been so blind. I decided I needed to confront her again, but this time I was ready. I called her and told her I knew everything, that I'd seen the proof. She was silent for a moment, then started to lie again. Said she was just trying to help her family, that the inheritance was just some money left over from her grandmother, and that the house deal was for her brother's business venture. But I wasn't buying it. I told her I had the emails, the texts, the bank statements. I told her I knew her real plan, to screw me over and walk away with everything. That's when she lost it. She started yelling, calling me paranoid, jealous, and crazy. She said I was ruining everything, that I was just insecure because she was more successful than me. She even accused me of spying on her like I was some kind of stalker. I could see the anger in her eyes, the bitchiness that had been building for months, and I realized she was dangerous. She'd do anything to protect her money and her plans. I told her she was done trying to lie her way out of it. I said I was going to get a lawyer, that I wasn't going to let her screw me over. I told her I wanted her out of the house by the end of the week. She hung up, cursing me, calling me all sorts of names, crazy, possessive, controlling, but I didn't care. I was done being played. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying everything. My mind was racing with questions. How could she betray me like this? Was I just some fool she married because I was convenient? Or was she always planning to cheat, to steal, to leave me drowning in debt? The emotional pain was overwhelming, but I knew one thing: she wasn't going to get away with it. I started reaching out to a lawyer the next morning. I needed to protect myself, my house, my future. I also began to think about how to confront her brother Tom, who had been involved in all this. It's one thing to lie about money. It's another to see someone's entire life built on deception. I was angry, yes, but also determined. Whatever it took, I was going to fight for what's mine. I also realized I couldn't keep this bottled up. I needed to talk to someone who understood what I was going through. I reached out to a close friend, a guy I've known for years, who listened patiently as I laid everything out. His advice: get everything in writing, document every conversation, and don't trust her anymore. That's what I planned to do. I couldn't let her manipulate me or cheat me out of what I'd worked for. It was a brutal wake-up call. I'd been by the woman I loved. But I also knew I had to stand tall, face the fallout, and do what was necessary to protect myself. I didn't want to be another victim of her schemes. I wanted justice, even if it meant tearing apart the life I thought I knew. The next steps would be the hardest, but I was prepared to see it through. Over the next few days, everything seemed to move in a blur. I spent most of my time on the phone with lawyers, trying to get my ducks in a row. I didn't trust anymore, not that I ever truly did, but now it was crystal clear she'd been lying from the start. Every time I thought about her sneaky plans, signing over the house, hiding that bank account, I felt a mix of anger and disappointment I couldn't shake. I decided I needed to get a clearer picture of her entire financial mess. That meant digging into her emails, her phone, and even hearing a private investigator just to see if I could find out what she was up to behind my back. Let me tell you, that's a sickening feeling, knowing someone you trusted is planning to screw you over while pretending to be the loving wife. I found more proof: receipts, messages, even a few shady calls with her brother Tom. It was like watching a bad movie unfold in real life. Meanwhile, kept up her act, acting innocent, trying to convince me she was the victim. She'd come by the house pretending to be all sweet and remorseful, but I saw right through her. She'd give me that bitchy smirk like she thought I was stupid. She'd say, "I don't know what you're talking about," when I brought up the bank account or the house papers. But I had enough now. I wasn't going to let her keep lying or manipulate me anymore. One afternoon, I caught her in a lie. She was acting overly concerned, asking about the house and the money, trying to make me feel guilty. I pressed her hard, and finally she snapped. She started yelling, calling me paranoid, possessive, and even crazy. She said I was just insecure because she was more successful and that I was making everything up. That's when I decided enough was enough. I told her I'd had enough of her lies, that I was getting a lawyer, and that I wanted her out of the house. She looked furious, like I'd just exposed her last card. That night I sat alone in the dark, feeling the weight of everything. The betrayal cut deep. I kept asking myself how I'd missed all the signs, how I'd been so blind. I'd always thought she was ambitious, maybe a little bitchy, but I never suspected she'd be capable of this kind of deception, trying to steal my house, take my money, and leave me drowning. It was a brutal realization that I'd married someone who was secretly planning her escape, all while pretending to be the perfect wife. But I also knew I couldn't let her win. I wasn't going to let her take everything I worked for, my home, my savings, my dignity. I reached out to the lawyer again and started preparing legal documents. I wanted to protect what was mine. I also started to think about how to handle her brother Tom, what kind of shady dealings he was involved in, and whether I could use that to my advantage. The emotional toll was heavy. I felt betrayed, humiliated, and angry, but I also felt a strange sense of clarity. I realized I'd been living in a fantasy, believing in the of marriage, when in reality I was just a pawn in her game. Now I was determined to fight back. I wasn't just going to roll over and let her walk away with my house and my life savings. I had to stand tall, even if it meant facing a long, messy legal battle. Looking back, I think the biggest lesson I learned is that trust is fragile. You think you know someone, but sometimes they're just pretending. I don't regret loving her, at least not entirely, but I do regret not seeing the signs earlier. If I could give advice to anyone in a similar situation, it would be this: pay attention to the small things, don't ignore your gut, and always protect yourself financially. Because once someone has a plan to betray you, it's a game of catch-up, and you don't want to be the one left holding the bag. The legal process started moving faster than I expected. My lawyer drafted up everything: papers to freeze her accounts, notices to prevent her from signing over the house, and a formal request to review all her financial records. I felt a strange mixture of relief and dread every time I got an update. Part of me hoped she'd realize she couldn't get away with it, but deep down, I knew was stubborn and manipulative enough to fight this all the way. Meanwhile, I kept my distance. I didn't want to give her any more ammunition. I stayed in the house, but I made sure to keep everything documented. Every conversation, every exchange, every suspicious move she made. I also hired a private investigator to follow her around, just to see if she was meeting anyone else or doing anything that might complicate the case. That was a tough pill to swallow, knowing she was out there, sneaking around while I was trying to hold everything together. One day she showed up unexpectedly, acting all innocent, pretending she wanted to talk. She looked good dressed up, trying to manipulate me with that bitchy smirk. She told me she wanted to clear the air, that she was sorry for everything and that she loved me. I just stared at her, feeling sick. I told her I didn't buy her act anymore, that I knew her plans, her lies, her manipulations. I told her I was done trusting her, that I was going to fight for my rights, and that she could either cooperate or face the consequences. She got angry then, really angry. Started yelling, accusing me of ruining her life, calling me controlling and jealous. She even threatened to take me to court, claiming I was trying to control her and ruin her reputation. But I didn't care. I knew what she was trying to do: stall, manipulate, and try to turn things around. I kept my cool, told her she was done and that her game was over. I also made it clear that I was prepared to fight her for everything: our house, the inheritance, the money she'd been hiding. That night I could sleep again. I kept going over everything, trying to prepare myself for what was coming. I knew this wasn't over yet. She'd fight tooth and nail, probably try to lie her way out of it or spin some sob story to get sympathy. But I was ready. I'd already seen her true colors. I'd gathered enough evidence. I wasn't going to let her screw me over without a fight. What really hit me is how calculating she'd been from the start. She lied, cheated, manipulated her way into my life, and now she was trying to cover her tracks. It made me realize how dangerous some people can be, how they can pretend to be your perfect partner but secretly be plotting their escape with your money. It's a cold, hard lesson, but one I won't forget. I also started thinking about what I really wanted, whether I should try to salvage the marriage or just cut my losses and move on. Honestly, part of me was furious enough to want nothing to do with her anymore, but another part was just exhausted. I needed to focus on protecting myself and rebuilding what I'd lost. I knew I'd have to be patient, wait for the legal stuff to unfold, and stay strong through whatever battles lay ahead. The thing I've learned most from all this: never assume the person you marry is who they seem to be. People can hide their true intentions for years, sometimes forever. If you suspect something, don't ignore it. Protect your assets, trust your instincts, and don't let anyone manipulate or betray you. Because once someone sets their sights on your money and your future, they'll do anything to get it, sometimes even at the cost of your trust, your marriage, and your peace of mind. The final stretch has been the most exhausting, but also the most revealing. After months of legal battles, proof gathering, and endless nights of doubt and anger, I finally saw the light at the end of the tunnel. Plans unraveled faster than she anticipated. The court ordered her to pay back the inheritance and froze her bank accounts. The house was legally protected, and I was granted full control, something I never thought I'd see happen. When she realized she was losing, her bitchy attitude turned into desperate manipulation. She tried to sway the judge with tears, claiming I was abusive and controlling. But I had everything documented: texts, emails, witness statements. I stayed calm, let the facts speak for themselves. It was a long, grueling process, but justice prevailed. I got my house back, my money, and a clear understanding of who she truly was. Honestly, the emotional toll was heavy. I felt betrayed, humiliated, and angry, but I also felt stronger. I learned that trust, once broken, is nearly impossible to repair, and that people can hide their true selves behind a pretty face for years. That realization stung, but it also made me more cautious about who I let into my life. Now I'm slowly rebuilding. I've moved out of the house, started fresh, and focused on my own well-being. I've cut ties with completely. As much as it hurts to see her go, I know I dodged a bullet. She's still trying to play the victim, but I don't have time for her games anymore. I've learned to trust myself more, to pay attention to the red flags, and to prioritize my own safety and integrity. Looking back, the biggest lesson I want to share is this: never ignore the signs of betrayal. When money, lies, and manipulation start creeping into a relationship, it's already too late. Protect yourself, set boundaries, and don't be afraid to stand up for what's right, even if it costs you everything up front. Because in the end, your peace of mind and dignity are worth more than any house or inheritance. I hope my story serves as a warning and a reminder. People aren't always who they seem, and sometimes the biggest betrayal comes from those you trust the most. Stay vigilant, stay strong, and never let anyone take advantage of your good nature. You deserve honesty, loyalty, and respect, no matter what.